Early in the morning, Dylan, a 45-year-old white man with a stocky build, was startled awake by a loud commotion coming from next door. Irritated, he peeked out the window to investigate. The house next door had recently gotten new tenants, a large, muscular black man who appeared to be around 40 years old. Narrowing his eyes, Dylan watched as 2 police officers stepped out of the man's house. Without a moment's hesitation, Dylan flung open his front door and yelled, "Hey, you black criminal! Keep it down, will you? It's too early for this crap. Don't make the cops come back and haul your ass off to jail." The man, whose name was Zion, stood silently, his expression unreadable as he adjusted some boxes on his porch. Feeling smug after his outburst, Dylan turned to head back into his house. As he did, his eyes landed on a large box sitting near his property line. Annoyed, he stomped over to the box and gave it a hard kick, sending it tumbling across the pavement. "Get this filthy black trash off my land," he barked. Finally, Zion spoke, his deep voice calm but firm. "Why are you damaging my property?" Dylan sneered, his voice rising. "Your junk is on my side. I should just throw it in the trash. You should be thanking me for not doing worse. Don't you dare talk to me like that." Zion's jaw tightened, and his hands balled into fists. He stepped closer to Dylan, his towering frame casting a shadow over the smaller man. For a moment, the tension in the air crackled as if a fight was about to break out. But then Zion closed his eyes and took a long, measured breath. Without saying another word, he picked up his box and carried it inside, leaving Dylan standing there, feeling triumphant. Dylan smirked, misinterpreting Zion's restraint as fear. "That's right," he muttered to himself. "Knew you'd back down. Probably scared I'd call the cops again." Feeling victorious, he returned to his morning coffee, blissfully unaware of one crucial truth. Zion's presence in the neighborhood wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous, and the threat Zion posed to Dylan wasn't something he could simply outrun or bully away. The following morning, Dylan was interrupted by a sharp, insistent knock at his door. Annoyed, he swung the door open, already bracing himself for the unwelcome sight of Zion. Sure enough, there he was, holding a plate of cookies, his face carefully composed in a mask of politeness. "I made these to introduce myself," Zion said, his voice calm, almost too calm. Dylan's expression soured instantly. "I don't need to play neighborly with your kind," he snapped, his words cutting through the air like a whip. Without hesitation, he grabbed the plate from Zion's hands and slammed it into his face. The cookies crumbled, scattering across the porch. Before Zion could respond, Dylan slammed the door shut, muttering curses under his breath. Behind the door, he imagined Zion standing there, humiliated, and it filled him with a petty sense of triumph. Outside, Zion wiped his face clean, his hands trembling slightly, before turning and walking back to his home in silence. The next day, as Dylan took his trash to the curb, he spotted Zion hunched over his garbage bin. The man's broad shoulders stiffened as soon as he noticed Dylan approaching. For a brief moment, Zion froze, as though caught in the act of some unspeakable crime. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Dylan barked. I was just looking for..." Early one morning, Zion stood silently, his voice barely rising above a whisper, trying to explain himself. Dylan sneered, his lips curling with contempt. "Figures. Trash like you belongs in the trash," he spat. Without waiting for an explanation, he swung the garbage bag he was carrying and hurled it at Zion with exaggerated force. The bag struck him with a sickening thud, spilling coffee grounds and rotting leftovers all over Zion's shirt. "There," Dylan said venomously. "Take your pick, you filthy black rat." He didn't bother to watch Zion's reaction, stomping back into his house and slamming the door behind him. Zion stood there for a long moment, methodically wiping the mess off his shirt. His face remained impassive, but his hands trembled faintly. Without saying a word, he cleaned up the mess and went back inside. Days passed in silence, with no noise or disruptions from Zion. Dylan felt a smug sense of victory, assuming the man had finally learned his place. But that illusion was shattered one afternoon when Dylan glanced out his window and saw Zion standing outside, holding a pair of binoculars and staring directly at his house. Rage boiled in Dylan's chest. Without thinking, he stormed to his gun cabinet, grabbed his shotgun, and marched to Zion's door. The pounding of his fist echoed through the quiet street. "Open the damn door, you bastard!" Dylan bellowed. When Zion answered, he barely had time to react before Dylan shoved the shotgun's barrel against his forehead. Zion's eyes widened in fear, his hands instinctively rising in surrender. "You spying on me, huh?" Dylan growled, his voice dangerously low. "If I catch you looking at my house again, I'll blow your damn head off." Zion's voice wavered as he stammered, I won't do it again. Please, don't shoot." Dylan sneered, his finger hovering over the trigger for a moment longer. Then, with a snarl, he lowered the gun. "You're lucky I'm feeling generous," he spat. "But don't think I'll let it slide next time." As Dylan stormed back to his house, he failed to notice the quiet intensity in Zion's eyes as he closed the door. Nor could he foresee the storm that was about to change his life forever. That night, in the dead of silence, an unusual noise from the living room jolted Dylan awake. Instinctively, he grabbed his iPad and checked the security cameras. To his shock, it was Zion, breaking into the house and attempting to crack open the safe in the living room. "That damn rat's dead tonight," Dylan muttered, grabbing his gun and creeping toward the living room. As he approached, he noticed something unusual. The secret door to his basement was wide open. Alarmed, he rushed downstairs and found Zion there, phone in hand, filming the stash of drugs that surrounded them. The basement was a full-blown drug operation. Piles of drugs, machinery, and even a section for growing cannabis. Hearing Dylan's footsteps, Zion quickly tucked his phone away, but it was too late. Dylan aimed his gun at Zion's forehead and growled, typical of a filthy rat, sneaking into other people's homes to steal. "But you picked the wrong house, the house of a drug lord." Zion's face paled, his voice trembling. "Please, don't kill me. I'll leave. I won't say anything, I swear." But Dylan wasn't moved. "The only thing that stays silent is the dead," he hissed, a twisted smile curling on his lips. He pulled the trigger, sending a bullet straight into Zion's heart. Zion crumpled to the floor, lifeless. Chuckling, Dylan retrieved a sharp knife and muttered, "You'll make great fertilizer for my weed." But just as he was about to dismember the body, a sudden gunshot from outside shattered his focus. Grabbing his weapon, Dylan prepared to confront the intruder. But what happened next was impossible. Zion, covered in blood but unharmed, sprang to his feet as though nothing had happened. Dylan froze, unable to process what he was seeing. Zion smirked and said, "You've been tricked." Before Dylan could react, the door burst open, and police officers swarmed in, taking him down in seconds. Handcuffed and furious, Dylan shouted, "Let me go. That damn black bastard deserves to die." Zion, now calm and composed, replied, "I'm the head of the anti-drug squad. Your operation is finished. It's time to face the consequences of your actions." Dylan's face twisted in disbelief. He had underestimated Zion entirely, blinded by his own prejudice. Now, he was headed to prison for his crimes: drug trafficking, manufacturing, and murder. As for Zion, his bravery and successful mission earned him a promotion. During his acceptance speech, he said, I dream of a world free from crime and racial discrimination, where everyone is treated as equals.